welcome to Anna Explains, and today we are going to be talking about super serious subject which is bullying, and this is part 2 of this video. So if you're ready, let's go. Right, bullying. In the video number 1 we were talking about what bullying actually is, right? We were discussing what that term means. And we started talking about boundaries, how important to explain to your child that you've got physical boundaries and then you've got emotional boundaries, right? And if someone's hurting you in one way or the other, and does it in repeatedly way, does it very often, it means that person is bullying you. And unfortunately, that person could be also a teacher, not just a pupil, it can also be a teacher. Now, what do we do about the situation? Well, let's talk more about boundaries itself. We need to teach our child quite early on to protect our boundaries. Like we install a fancy lock in our front door, like when we fence off our backyard, we also need to teach our child to fence off from emotional or physical or both offense quite early on. So when you're in a baby group or playground, how often did you face a situation that some child comes over to your child and just grabs the toy? Ask yourself, what do you normally do in this situation? I can guarantee you that maybe most common answer would be, well, I just said to my child, oh, James, just give this child a toy. Sharing is caring. By doing that, you actually don't encourage your child to protect its boundaries. And I think that's the silliest behavior parents allow to happen to their children, because it doesn't teach your child the fact that that is his or her boundaries. It is their toy that they're quite nicely playing with, and then someone's got the right to come over and take that toy away, and their goddess, their mother, doesn't protect him, their own child. So that is wrong. So if that situation happened to your child quite early on at the nursery, you from young age should teach your child that actually if you want to swap toys, that's okay, but no one is allowed to grab your toys. That's not right. That's overstepping your boundary, right? And in that situation, if that happens to you, don't allow some other child to grab your children's toy. Protect your child. Say, no, don't grab the toy from my child. That's not yours. Not sharing is caring. Imagine if that happened to you and someone would come along and grab your iPhone. You're playing with your iPhone, and you grabbed your iPhone, and your husband will say, no, don't worry, Anna. Give your toy to this lady. Sharing is caring. You would think that's ridiculous, but that's what happens very often when you go to baby groups or some other social activities with your child, and that happens quite often. Kids just come over, grab toys, but yes, they do that, but it's up to us to teach our children to protect their boundaries. It starts from quite young age. So we're teaching your child to protect our boundaries, and then we are teaching our child to defend our boundaries, so learning to say no. So it's very common when a child faces the situation where he can just say no. When I spoke to my son about it, he was just saying that it's really hard for him to say no because he feels bad about himself, that he says no, he's worried he's going to upset someone. And then I was teaching my children, as an example, that no is okay. Because if you don't want to eat certain food, you can say no to that. If you don't want to wear a certain type of clothes, you can say no to that. It's okay to say no. You just vocalizing, sounding out your own feeling, and your feeling to have different feelings is okay. But again, it depends how you say that no. There's different ways to say no. So if you feel uncomfortable just saying no, there's different ways how you can do it. So as an example, I was teaching my children this so-called sandwich technique, when you say thank you first. So when you say something positive, and that's the bread, and then you have ham in the middle, and that will be your no, and then you wrap it up with the bread again with something positive again. So let's say your child is invited to some birthday party and he doesn't want to go. You can say, right, so you can say thank you for the invite. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it, but yet again, very nice of you to invite me anyway. Well, there you go. That's a nice way to decline a birthday invitation. So we're teaching our children, to protect our boundaries, and we're teaching our children to say no. And actually, the whole thought that saying no, it's okay, not wanting to do something, not agreeing to doing something that the crowd wants to do, it's okay. Now, so we're learning to say no. Now, if we face the situation that the child is right now, today, is really badly bullied at school, what do we do? Well, first things first, we find out some facts. We find out the facts from our child. We have heart-to-heart conversation when we say, right, what's actually happened? What did the child say? Because we also keep in mind there is certain type of bullying called cyberbullying, right? So when children or group of children or a certain child send in some inappropriate texts, as an example, text messages or video messages or whatever, have we got a proof of that? If we do, let's take a screenshot of that, right? We find out some facts. We base it not so much on emotions. We cool down and we build the case based on facts. Super important. And after that, what can you do? Okay, let's go through the options. Well, you can go and speak to school, right? I know schools are famous for and proud for zero bullying in their schools. So yes, you can speak to school, be delicate about it. Depending on the school, they might be up for talking to the parents, they might be up for talking to the children. Again, it depends. How old is that child? Is it 16 teenager? Is it 10-year-old? Is it 11-year-old? It all varies, but okay, you can speak to school. That's an option. You find out some facts. You speak to school. That's an option. You talk to the parents of that child or, children or whatever. That's another option. Another option, if the situation went completely dramatic, you can change the school. At the same time, when it's all happening, I also recommend you, for your child and you as well, to see children's psychologists. Now, loads of parents and children come to me for consultation and deal with the situation. And again, we work on the boundaries. Again, we work on self-defense, emotional self-defense. We work on learning to say no and all these different things. We find out some facts. I've got lots of art therapy going on my sessions. So please text me and see my details if you're interested and you face the same situation. But at the same time, when you're going through those processes, I strongly recommend to see the psychologist to help your child to get through this really, really difficult times. I'm sounding like a COVID person, yeah, when we were told for 2 or 3 years in these difficult times and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so we change in the school. If the situation went completely out of hands, we just change in the school. Screw that school. We can change the school. It's okay, right? And another thing, which I'm always talking to you about in my videos, we can go homeschooling. We can go homeschooling because always remember, your child is your responsibility. The emotional health of your child, as much as physical, is your responsibility, not the school's responsibility, not the teacher's responsibility, no one else. Yours responsibility. And if the emotional health of your child went out of hands, emotional health went out of hands, out of control, it's your job to fix it. Don't put it onto the schools, onto the bad school, onto the bad teacher, into all those situations. Treat it seriously. It's your responsibility. And one more thing. If we're talking about a teacher bullying your child, that's a different situation altogether because, again, it's really hard to prove. It's really hard to go about it. It's really hard to catch that particular teacher because don't forget, we are not dealing with a teenager here. We're not dealing with a pupil when we can grab the hand and say, yes, you texted it. There isn't enough proof to go about, if you go to the head teacher as an example, to say, well, this certain teacher shouted at my child or didn't look a certain way. Yet bullying, teachers bullying happens very, very often because the teacher by a certain way just doesn't like your child. And the child is just feeling uncomfortable with certain teacher, but how can you prove it? What are you going to do about that situation? Again, deal with a psychologist, treat it seriously, possibly talk to the head teacher if you feel that's, again, it depends on the head teacher. Talk to the authorities. And another good way to go about it, it might not be so much psychological way, but it did work for me as an example, do some voluntarily work for the school that involved that particular teacher. Be nice to that teacher. Be helpful. Come over and do some forest school as a helping hand. As a parent, giving some free time. Go to the school committee. Be nice to that particular teacher. I know it might be pleasant for you. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it actually does work. I thought my video was super helpful today. I tried to make it reasonably short and put all the important information in once because that's part 2 of that video. If you liked my video, please push the button right now. Don't be lazy with your fingers, right? Subscribe to my channel and write a little comment for me. I'll be super grateful. Thank you so much. Welcome again to Anna Explains, and I see you on my other videos. Bye.